All right, everybody. Today is Friday. It's August 30th. Welcome to the Dog Walk presented by Barstool Sports. Special guest in studio today. I'm joined by Chicago high school football legend, Edgy Tim. Edgy,
if you
welcome
say
in.
so. Hey, it's great to be here. I feel like I finally landed on the mothership. Kind of cool. So
Yeah, no, we got a nice little thing here. If you want to pull the mic a little bit, like right.
yeah, you think a guy that's been in radio for 30 years would have pulled the microphone closer, but
Yeah.
great to be here, man. I appreciate hearing from you. I mean, I followed obviously you guys and what you've done, and it's awesome.
Thanks,
Fantastic.
yeah. Appreciate it. And it's a long time coming. I've always been like, I got to get Edgy on this year to preview the high school slate.
Yeah.
You know, do everything, and then it sneaks up on me
know.
every year because
Every year.
you know, week 0 in college football, and then I'm always so zoned in on the Bears. So I'm finally happy we made it happen.
Bears.
Yeah, Bears, exactly.
Well, finally, there's 2 Southern Illinois guys working in the industry.
Yeah, exactly.
2 less. So
When did you graduate from Southern?
a long time ago. A lot longer than you.
I'm sure. But no, it's great to have you.
Thank you.
I've been reading your site since I was.
I'll apologize in advance, especially for the message boards. It's just a train wreck.
Well, you know, everyone loves the message boards.
I know.
The message board.
Even in this day and age, yeah, they're still serving a purpose.
They'll
guess.
just never die. My guy Dave here, he's on the North. He's a big Northwestern fan, and he's still in the Northwestern message boards.
Yeah.
He's just hammering away.
Yeah.
You know, so that's how it is. So let's kind of do some background. We'll get into a preview kind of later on. But how did you get the name Edgy Tim?
All right. Well, back in the day, and again, I grew up in Cal City, moved out to Joliet when I got married 31 years ago. They had a regular talk show on. It was actually it was kind of unique. It was kind of a television, like local cable access shows. Did preps, and the guy that does a lot of the IHSA TV stuff now, Dave Bernhardt, does all the play-by-play and what have you. He was a host, and I was like a regular caller. And one night he said, you sound a little edgy tonight. And the next week I was on the show. I was Edgy Tim, and I've been Edgy Tim ever since. And I think he's still trying to get royalties off of it. But
I mean, it's a great.
It just
nickname.
worked.
Yeah,
it just worked. You got to remember, this was pre-Twitter. This was pre a lot of things.
So what year again?
Oh, God, I can't even tell you. This is my 29th year of publishing this year. So it would have been 30-some-ish years ago.
Okay.
Back in the Stone Age.
Gotcha. All right. So we're talking 90s.
Right. Al Gore and I invented the internet. So it's all good.
So the 90s, Edgy Tim is born through being a radio caller.
Yeah.
And then how do you get into making this website?
AOL homepage, dial-up. First year I had 347 visitors. I was probably 220 of the 347.
Family was the rest.
It was a yellow page with a blue font. That was it. I actually have a screenshot of it that I'll probably throw up Friday just to show people for shits and giggles.
You should.
Yeah, it was just something that I'd always been involved in. I'd always loved high school football. I played, then I didn't play, and then I just thought, we got a computer at home, which back then was probably about $5,000 for a home computer. I just remember the wife saying, if we're going to put this money out, I don't care, but you better do something with it. And 31 years later, I'm still doing it, and she can't yell at me. So just kind of started from there, and it just kind of picked up, and I learned a little bit more about HTML and trying to make things work and on the site, and things progressed and got better, and just slowly but surely kind of grew into the monster it is today.
So calling into the radio show led to you being like, all right, I want to start my own site.
Yeah.
Really blow some steam off.
Yeah, always loved high school football, always had an interest in it. It was one of those back then where, you might have got a story once a week about teams and like maybe a preview story during the season, and that was about it. And I always thought that, number one, there's a fan base out there for high school football, whether, especially even here in Chicago with, a pro sports town and everything that goes on here. There's still an audience there, and I knew that there were people out there that cared about it. I just felt that if I kept working at it and maybe draw some attention and just kind of try to bring more fans in and talk about it. None of this was ever part of the plan. I mean, people say all the time, was it something that you envisioned? I'm like, hell no, it's nothing I envisioned. I had no idea what I was doing with it, honestly. It's like, okay, I'll give it a year and I'll see what happens. And then, all right, I'll do it another year and see what happens. And just slowly but surely picked up and still going today.
Do you remember what kind of got it traction? Was there like a big story?
Yeah. Actually, what got attraction to it was there was a big rivalry game. It was Thornton Township against Lincoln Way. It was when Lincoln Way was one school. And that was the years of like Corey Paws and some just terrific games. And people just found it all of a sudden and found the message board, and it just kind of picked up. And then people started talking about it more and more, and just saw my numbers just skyrocket, and it just kind of took off from there. And then also, yeah, it's funny because, I mean, yeah, I was that outsider back then. I mean, it took me almost 9 years to get credentials from the IHSA. Because I wasn't the traditional media guy. I was one of you people. I was one of the, alternate media, which live and die by, no doubt about it, proud of it. But ironically, they also started kind of hopping on board and seeing what I was doing and getting involved. And so like guys like Steve Tucker and Bob Sakamoto and they were traditional media, but they're also big reasons why I was able to kind of pick up. And then they would quote me on things, and it just kind of all snowballed.
So at that time in the 90s, was it just mostly like Trib and Sun Times? Like
that was about it.
That was it. They're covering high school sports.
Yeah.
And you come along, you're an independent, you're
just some goof. But, I just stuck with it. You just keep doing what you're doing, and you meet more people and you talk and you make some really good relationships, which fortunately a lot of them I still have to this day. And they kind of believed in, and a large part of my audience are parents, and a large part of it are coaches, and a large part of it are refs, and it's just one big community that just really kind of took me in, and it's been fantastic.
Yeah, and now to me, you're the spot.
Yeah.
Like, and you always have been the spot since I was in high school and the mid 2000s. So
it's. I mean, just you having me here, it's flattering because you never think about that stuff. You never think like who's really out there reading this and who's looking at it. And I mean, I just hope that people come away with a good feeling and like know that why I'm in it and why I do what I do. And if they enjoy it, cool. And, if not, I'll hear about that too, just like you guys. But, there's a lot more good out there than not good. So
yeah.
It's been fun.
Yeah. Because it's not easy either, because you're sitting there and you're watching 17 to 18-year-olds.
Right.
So people will be like, oh, do coverage differently. You can't be super critical.
No.
They're kids.
That's a line that I've been dancing for 30 some years, and you're gonna dance that dance until the day you're done. Is that you need to remember they're kids. You need to remember they're not pro athletes. Although I don't know, NIL now,
yeah,
that's changing. But it's something I've always been very, very aware of. And then on the other side, you can be critical without being over the top. And being honest without being over the top, and that's something I've kind of learned through the years too, where I've always tried to lean on the positive, and as we all know, that's not easy to do these days, and it really doesn't sell sometimes. But that's just something I've always tried to maintain.
Yeah, I think you have to, because it's just kind of really poor taste if you go that opposite direction.
And again, it's high school, so you've got to be real careful. Otherwise, I mean. Yeah, they could close those doors very quickly if you're not doing it the right way.
So what's the relationship with Rivals?
Well, Rivals obviously was a up and coming network, and someone threw them a ton of venture capitalist money one day, and they went out and started finding independent websites, and I was one of them. And it was funny because I was working at the Merck at the time down here, and I mean I was in that industry for almost 20 years. And then all of a sudden I get reach out to me and saying, hey, would you like to come work for us and publish for us? And I'm like, this guy's joking. There's no way. What are they going to do with this stupid little high school site? And they just kind of believed in me and said, "Hey, come on board and let's give it a shot." And again, it was another big. You talk about those monumental steps, and that was a big one because they were an actual network and they actually had infrastructure and pretty decent functional websites, and they looked good. And back then, we had 50, 60 other high school publishers all over the country, so it was a legitimate network that obviously moved on and grew into bigger and better things. So, they've been fortunate to put up with me all these years, and I think it's worked out pretty well for both of us.
And what year was that kind of?
Oh God, you're asking me these.
I like timelines.
I know you do. I know
like
you do. It's my fault. Late 90s, 98, 99. So I was probably at it about 3 to 4 years as an independent. So 95 is when I started.
Oh, so that's great. So
Yeah.
things like don't get me wrong, 3 years, and I'm sure, like you said, the
Yeah.
first year when you're seeing 300 web hits,
Right.
you're like, where the fuck is this going?
Yeah.
But,
Nowhere.
yeah,
I'm really.
yeah. But
But it was okay. I mean, it wasn't like I was rolling dice on anything. I mean, I was working, and I had a pretty good job, and that was great. Now, the roll of the dice was sitting down with your wife and telling her, "Hey, I'm going to leave a Fortune 500 company to go start my little website on high school football." That's when you know your wife loves you, when she says, "Okay."
do it.
So
Yeah.
31 years we've been together. So it's
The Merc, what were you doing there?
worked for a couple of different brokerage firms, worked on the Merc floor when human beings actually used to trade, and you see trading places and you see the trading pit movies. That's where I was.
God, it's so interesting talking to guys who used to work there.
Oh, it was
because
amazing.
They all talk about it the same way, where they're just like,
It was amazing.
That's a good
What was really cool was because of the hours that you used to keep, because market hours are generally 6 to 2. A lot of guys I met on the floor, and it was funny because, being Edgy Tim was back then was kind of like being in the witness protection program. You heard of him, but you never really knew who he was.
Yeah.
A lot of guys on the trading floor were high school football coaches because they were getting off at like 2:00 and they're able to get out to practices. I mean, there were probably a dozen high school football coaches that were on the Merc floor at one time. So,
And were you open about it, or were you like,
yeah, oh yeah.
okay.
Because they would come up to me and go, "Are you that Edgy Tim guy?" Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's cool. I like what you're doing. Oh, I coach for this, and I coach at this school, and I coach at that school. So, yeah, it's just neat how it all came about.
Wow. So 98-ish comes around.
Yeah.
Rivals.
Yeah.
And now, did they buy the site, or did they partner? How did that
To
work?
this day, we're partners. So we're splitting ad revenue. We're splitting subscription. It's still to this day it's subscription model, which back then they were one of the first. Because the newspapers wouldn't go that way because they just didn't. They wouldn't accept where things were going, and Rivals saw it very early on that ad revenue is okay, but it fluctuates up and down quite a bit depending upon the economy. But subscription wise has been pretty stable as a revenue generating, and so you're basically an independent contractor and you're working and publishing through their software and their network. So that's kind of how that works.
Gotcha. Okay. So
Yep.
you're a partner with them.
Yep.
What was so when you leave the Merc and you're working full time now on edgytim.com?
2 kids, by the way. I'll throw that in too.
Okay. Yeah. It's important to note.
I was working at home like 2 decades before everyone else was. So I'm just saying, I'm not saying I'm a trendsetter, but kind of a trendsetter.
Kind of. Yeah.
bit.
You had everyone beat.
I was a stay-at-home dad. So,
Were your kids young at that time?
oh yeah.
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 And what was that like? I mean, I assume.
Oh, my kids hated me working from home.
Yeah.
Dude, they could not get away with anything.
Yeah.
And my kids will tell you, it's funny, my daughter just got engaged over the weekend, but when they were kids and like they were sick and they were trying to play I don't feel good. The wife's and I favorite line was, "Why don't you just go in for an hour? Why don't you just go in for the first hour and see how you feel?" And they're like, "Oh, that was such BS. You were never coming back to get us." There was one time where the school called and said, "Yeah, she's sick. Come pick her up." But they couldn't get away with anything because someone was always home.
Yeah. I'm sure. And
Yep.
what was I don't know if you want to, but where did they go to high school? I don't know if that's
Yeah, I originally well, obviously I said I grew up in Cal City and then I lived in Joliet. So
Okay.
we started in Joliet. Then we moved to Shanahan. And so my son they both went to St. Paul's grade school in Joliet. And then they both went to Minooka High School.
Okay.
High school.
Was there ever an issue with them being students? I don't know if you played football or not, but was there ever an issue with you being Edgy Tim and, writing about them, or was there ever any
No, son played a little bit of baseball, but the son never really a big athlete. My athlete was a daughter. Daughter played softball for 9-10 years, played in college, and so she was the athlete. But obviously, I talk about high school football, so there was no real crossover, and which I'm thankful for, because it's just one of those things where it's your own kid.
It's hard. Yeah.
I would, and again, kind of how my wife and I raised our kids, where we'll support, if you want to play a sport, we'll support anything you do, and we'll get you anything you need, but if you start it, you finish it. So if you start the year, you're going to finish the year. And they both followed suit and love sports. They're both Chicago sports fans. I feel I've done my job as a parent. Now, they'll probably go back and probably have to get psychiatric help because they are Chicago sports fans, especially on the baseball side.
Yeah.
I'm a Sox fan.
Okay.
So it's been a rough year.
Tough.
Oh, and then I'm thinking, well, I've been saying that for 50 some years. So, but my one pride is that they're both Chicago sports fans.
Yeah, that's important.
Yep.
Man, that had to be so weird going downtown every for years for work, and then one day you wake up, it's like I'm just that first day.
Pretty cool.
Do you remember that first day?
Absolutely.
It's like I'm not going in now. I'm sitting here in my underwear and I'm writing about it.
So the first day, the wife calls on her break and says, "Well, how are things going?" And I said, "Well, we're here. We got our pants off. It's no pants Monday." And then we joke around and say we'd have Hawaiian shirt Friday, and it was great. And again, it's the best part of that decision. Now, obviously, it worked out fine. I got to know my kids, and I really know my kids well, and I knew who their friends were, and I knew what they were doing, and I was able to be a big part of their lives, and I saw myself from working downtown and having to make that commute. I was seeing less and less of my kids, and it's not a good thing. No. I mean, you want to be involved, and you want your kids to know who you are. That was one of the biggest benefits from making that move.
Yeah,
hands down.
It's such a cool story, Edgy.
Thanks. Just worked out, man. None of it was planned. It was no grand master plan. It just kind of came together. Now it's a different challenge. I mean, my son's 30. So he lives out of state, and my daughter, I said, just got engaged over the weekend, and so my kids are growing up. So now it's the battle to stay where I'm at and stay relevant.
Yeah.
And to not be the old guy that people don't want to read or hear from. And so that's my challenge, and I look at it as where I want to be Aerosmith. I want to keep kicking ass to the very end, and when I'm done, I'm just going to be done.
Yeah.
And I'll move on.
Do you have like a date in mind that you want to?
No, dude, I have so much fun.
Yeah.
Why stop?
Yeah.
I mean, as long as it's still working for everybody, I'm going to keep putting every effort I can into it.
Is interest as high as ever, or has the numbers of
it's changed? I mean, a lot of it has changed. There's more independent people doing stuff. There's different entities are getting involved in doing stuff. You have a couple of the newspapers, which is ironic because I'm kind of doing stuff for them now. I'm doing stuff this year for the Daily Herald. They're getting involved in it and doing some different things. And, so like every business, it changes and the landscape changes. But, things are still going pretty well. I mean, it's selling subscriptions is as hard as ever. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think that ever changes. But like anything, it's a challenge. And I definitely embrace that challenge every year. So, you know what? I'm just going to hammer you with stuff.
Well, because numbers are down in football in general.
Yeah.
Right? So I assume that affects the business.
Down, but what's interesting, though, is girls flag football is going to completely turn around from the high school side. Girls flag football is going to be a big deal very, very soon.
Really?
Yes.
That's interesting.
It is. This year is an IHSA sanctioned sport.
Oh, wow.
I know the Chicago Bears have gotten involved heavily with promotion and financial support. And Eddie, I'm telling you, girls flag football is going to be a very big deal very soon. It is growing rapidly.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think it's great.
I haven't.
You're creating football fans is
Yeah.
what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's great. I think it's great for the sport. I think it's great for the high school level too. You're getting girls that probably, in a lot of cases, weren't playing anything. And now they're playing flag football. Awesome.
It's an extra fall sport. Yeah, I didn't even know that was a thing, to be honest.
So keep an eye on that.
Yeah, no, I definitely will. I'm sure you're going to be covering it if,
To a point. See, that's one of the struggles too. It's how much time, how much emphasis. I mean, I'm one guy for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
I've had people help me over the years with some stuff, but content-wise, it's all me.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. I definitely got to look into it, though, and check out a game or two.
Yeah. No, it's on my radar now. So you brought it up earlier, and, we got to get into it. Edgy's lost his mind-free football book.
Yep.
What year was that born?
Right away, 95, 96.
Okay, so that's always been there.
It was always like one of the centerpieces of it was the way to bring people in, because there was nowhere else to really talk about high school football. There was no Twitter, there were no Facebook groups, there's no Facebook.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that was it. You
either had like I mentioned, like some would have like a weekly talk show. Maybe radio would have a weekly talk show. But see, even in Chicagoland, it's totally different. Because the major AM and FM stations here didn't do any high school football. They still pretty much don't. But it was more of kind of a suburban and out of Chicagoland area thing, where the radio stations would get involved and do some stuff. But you didn't have a lot of that in Chicago. So there wasn't really anywhere to go. And then once it kind of picked up and people got a wind of it, then you started hearing from people outside of Chicagoland, and you hear from someone from Peoria, and then you hear someone from the Quad Cities. And so, yeah, it was cool. It was definitely kind of a melting pot at first. It was all very kind of localized. It was a lot of Joliet area, because that's where I was known from first. And then everything else just kind of picked up. So.
How do you feel about it personally? Is it the bane of your existence? Is this
the message board?
Yeah.
Oh, 1,000%.
Yeah.
It's to the point now where, and I mean, we've done studies, we've got research, market research, everything else that tells you the value and the not so much value of a free message board. And it's diminished for sure. There's a million different ways of pulling people in now. Social media obviously has been a huge part of it. Twitter, I keep calling it Twitter, X.
Yeah.
Facebook, obviously Instagram, TikTok. Should I do TikTok?
I'm still barely.
See, that's where I'm going. I don't want to be the one old guy doing TikTok.
Yeah, I mean, I feel you, and I'm kind of the same way at this company. We got so many young people, and they're kind of running with it. I'll post some stuff, but I don't really get on there and scroll.
I love the message board. Don't get me wrong. I started it, and I did have a vision with. That this is where people need to come and talk football.
Yeah.
The problem is they want to talk everything else but football.
Yeah.
And I just don't allow it. I don't allow political talk on my message board.
How often do people submit topics like that?
Constantly.
Yeah.
Constantly.
It's just
this time of year is just ridiculous.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
It's going to be like that for the next couple months too.
Yeah. Yeah. But see, again, it's like everything in this world. You've got that 10% you got to deal with, but the 90% are awesome. The 90% are people that want to be there. They're diehard football fans, and they bring a lot to the table. So that's the whole thing. You guys know this as well as anyone. Don't diminish the fans. Don't look down on the fans. Mm-hmm. The fans know a lot more than you think, and a lot more that you might give them credit for.
Oh yeah.
And you guys have built a network off of it. I've built a website off of it. That, you know what? You're not a complete moron. You might actually have a few good points. And like I talked about too, a lot of my audience were coaches. I mean, they were administrators. I mean, they're people that really are tied into the sport that just wanted an anonymous place to go talk. So,
what's been the strangest phenomena in all the years of running that free message board?
Wow. There's been, I think the best part of it are some of the relationships I've been able to make when you actually find out who these people are and you kind of get to know them. I mean, they're like family. Some of those guys, I talked to one of them on the way in today. I mean, this guy's family. I've known him for 30 years. Got invited to graduations and got invited to weddings and unfortunately got invited to funerals and that part of it. The strangest part is the back and forth. I've gotten sued a couple of times.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. people are well, I'm telling you guys, people are out of their minds sometimes.
Oh yeah.
So
I get that.
The legal aspect of it can be a pain.
Can you say anything about that? What have you gotten sued for?
Not really. I mean, they've all been dismissed, but they'll bring up almost more of a nuisance lawsuit just to kind of prove a point that, hey, blah, blah, blah. Fortunately, we have very good corporate lawyers, number one. And then number two, it's all in terms of service. Read your terms of service, people. When you go to sign up, you're agreeing to a lot of stuff you have no idea what you just agreed to. So a lot of that, obviously, we're covered legally.
But when I say like phenomenal, what was like a poster that you remember, like a time period?
Well, any time you want to create some controversy or talk is mentioned public versus private. That's it.
Yeah.
All you got to do.
Yeah.
They should kick those Catholic schools out of the IHSA. Boom, bam, goes nuts. To this day.
Well, let's get into it.
Fine.
What do you think?
I think Catholic. Let's call it what they are. Catholic schools. Catholic schools have contributed more than their share to the IHSA, and they should always remain part of the IHSA. Now, whether you want to multiply or put, limits, they already do a multiplier. They already do a success factor. There's different rules in place. If you need to increase those numbers, if they see fit, then fine. If the Catholic schools don't like it, they can get up and leave. But it works. I know a lot of public schools will argue and say, the Catholic schools won all the state titles, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, then fix it. Then do something. But I definitely think we're a better sport because both are in the same group at IHSA.
The way I see it is, of course, you got those powerhouses.
Yeah.
Who are always at the top. They're always competing for state titles.
That hasn't changed. It's the same this year. When we start talking about this season, you're going to ask me who are some of the top teams. And there's some of the top teams that names you've heard for decades.
100%.
So.
But for, the Mount Carmels and the Loyolas and the JCAs, there's the Lincoln Way East and there's the Maine South and there's but then there's those teams that are in between, like where I went to. It's like we lose to those teams all the time too.
Well, you mentioned St. Pat's.
Yeah.
And Niles Notre Dame and DePaul Prep. And there's several others that you look at their schedule, it's ridiculous. They're playing Mount Carmel and Loyola and Rice and Marist, and you get them. If you put them into the playoffs as a 3-win team, they're going to probably win quite a few first-round games because they've been so tested. That's part of it. That just I wish we could do playoffs on, say, a power ranking standpoint instead of just strictly wins. Because honestly, probably most of those Chicago Catholic League schools off of power rankings are probably getting the playoffs. But it's not. So that's part of the give and take. But yeah, it's always been an issue. It always will be an issue. The one thing, it hasn't come up to a member vote yet. In all these years, it's never been brought up for a member vote. And I think the reason that is because that would be a lot for the IHSA to lose. Financially, it would be a lot for the IHSA to lose if all the Catholic schools, if they basically said, you gotta go. They wouldn't handle it that way. They probably would just have them in a separate division and manage it that way. But I don't know. We'll see. And I hope it doesn't happen.
No, you're losing so much of a fan base and historic ties.
People not in this area, not in Chicago, and really don't understand the draw and the power and the appeal of like the Chicago Catholic League.
They don't.
No,
they don't. Even like
some of
the guys I work with, like they're just like, what's
right?
I'm like, dude, you don't get it.
Right.
Like we said, like this today, Friday.
But if you're working with a guy that's a Niles Notre Dame grad, you two are talking a little smack that week before.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And that's what is, I don't know.
The best part about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why do you think that gets lost between?
Well, it gets lost here because, as I mentioned, it's a big city. It's a pro sports city.
Yeah.
Even college sports are very limited here from a draw and a media standpoint. I mean, let's face it, I hate picking on Northwestern. If Northwestern or Illinois are having a good year, and let's say they win on a Saturday, say early in the fall, what are they, the third or fourth story on the sports? That's it in a nutshell. So where does high school fall in that? Way back. But that passion has not gone. It still stays. Anyone that has grown up here knows it. Everyone knows it. So that's one of the many reasons I find it such a draw to high school football, is because it's unique.
Yeah.
It's the best small town feel you can get on a Friday night. I don't care if you're 3 blocks from here. You can get that at a high school game on a Friday night, because it's a community. It's your friends. It's the people you went to school with. It's your family, people you grew up with. You're at one place at one time for that, and it's an amazing feeling.
Why do you think the state of Illinois, football-wise in general, like how would you grade us as a football state?
Middle of the road. I mean, on a national basis, probably 10-15 range, probably.
Okay. Yeah.
So we're good, but we're not Ohio. We're not Texas. We're not Florida. But I will say, in our defense, when it comes to hoops, they're not even close. Now, if we're going to include basketball and football, I think Illinois is probably top 5.
Probably, yeah.
So,
because hoops, we're top 3 every time,
right,
at least, right?
Right, yeah. I mean, there are years we sign more Division I basketball players than football players.
Yeah.
From here.
Which is crazy.
And that's just, it's not that our numbers are down football-wise. It just shows you how good the basketball side is. Mm-hmm. So, I think that's a big part of it.
Where'd you go to high school again?
TF North.
TF North, that's right.
Norton Correctional.
Joking. What school have you been accused of liking the most?
247 since I've been doing this. Seriously, dude. Everyone thinks I'm a homer for somebody.
Yes, but
that's
who is it
flattery,
the most,
though. That's flattery, though.
Yeah. Which team have you been accused of being a homer for the most?
Joliet Catholic.
Okay.
Because I live 5-10 minutes from here, which I'm fond of them, but I don't think I'm a homer, because I get it on the other side from them saying, well, how come you have us ranked so low? How come you don't have us ranked higher? Blah, blah, blah. So if I'm such a homer, why am I hearing it from my people? Mm-hmm. So Mount Carmel, because my dad went to Mount Carmel. And again, this is another thing that just kind of blew away. I've done some really cool stuff since I've been doing this. And I mean, Mount Carmel awarded me the Frank Kishko Award last year, which is like their media award for the year. It just blew me away. Like, I had no idea. It's like, I was just like absolutely just flabbergasted. So they all think I'm a homer to Mount Carmel. There's others.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I mean,
you can't. Like, you just gotta.
I mean, I try to be a homer for all of them. That's the whole purpose of why I started this, was to cover and bring attention to IHSA football. So if you think I'm a homer for all these teams, then great. So
who have you been accused of hating the most?
Hating the most?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever been accused of hating.
No, there's not, like, when Joe Buck calls the Cubs game, he hates the Cubs.
Well, that's a whole different level of hate. That's multiple sport hate too.
Yes.
I can't think of anyone that stands out. Like, there are schools that will, like, well, you never come to us. How come you never come to cover our game on a Friday night? Well, okay, for number one, there's one of me. Number two, there's how many schools in this state? And see, that's the thing too. I cover the state. I don't just hang out in Chicagoland. I mean, I told you what I'm doing this weekend. I'll be down at Illinois State for Loyola in East St. Louis. I'll be in East St. Louis later in the year to cover one of their games. I'll go to Rockford. I'll go to the Quad Cities. Dude, I'm everywhere.
Yeah, many people might not know that there's a different Mount Carmel down south.
There is.
So you're watching Mount Carmel, Johnston City.
The Golden Aces. And believe me, there's a world of difference between Chicago Mount Carmel and Mount Carmel, Illinois.
And I only know that because we both went to Southern. So
there you go.
I'm hip to all
Dogs.
All the Southern Illinois schools too.
Yeah.
Where did Nick Hill go? DuQuoin.
Yeah.
They were traditionally really good.
Yep. DuQuin, Nashville.
Really good 2A.
I'll start
school.
naming all these. You guys don't care. So
we got to go back to the message boards though, Ed. Like you got to give me something there, that like some type of story, there's got to be something there when it comes to the message boards, because like I said, it's such a legendary part of the Edgy Tim lore. Like, I remember, I think it was there was like a Bartlett freshman joke.
Oh, yeah.
Shit like that,
the Bartlett freshman. There was some guy that would come on the message board and posting This group of Bartlett freshmen are going to be the greatest high school football team that Bartlett and the western suburbs has ever seen. And that lasted like 2 decades of people just bagging on the Bartlett freshmen.
Yeah.
Stuff like that for sure. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff like that. But, I mean, there were parents. I mentioned the lawsuits. There were parents that, were hyping up their kid and just people you just sniff that stuff out so fast, and they're just relentless. I mean, they can just be relentless, and some of it I'm not gonna lie, some of it's really funny to watch. It's hysterical.
It's great.
But if it does get to a point of getting almost out of control, I do have that delete button, and unfortunately, and whether it's funny or not, sometimes you just got to pull it down.
Yeah, I think that was my year. Was the part I remember reading that, and then I think
pretty legendary.
Yes, I think their senior.
And they
year.
were good, but they weren't.
No.
Yeah, the Bartlett freshmen.
There's some guy in there named Irish Glory. I remember.
Irish Glory was some crackpot from Homewood Flossmoor, and he would talk about every home game at Homewood Flossmoor is sold out. Well, what he didn't fail to mention was that HF limited the amount of tickets they sold. So, like, they would sell like 500 tickets, and then that's it. They could have had 5,000 extra people at some of the games. They were trying to control security and what have you, and no hate towards that whatsoever. But, yeah, there's been some legendary crackpots, no doubt about it.
Any other legends?
See, now, because of, like, the questions you're asking me, I knew I should have wrote a damn book. Maybe I still will.
Yeah.
Because I got some stories, man.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah, and I realize how niche some of this is.
It is.
Talking
Right.
About
Yeah,
now.
I'm talking right.
Like some people are gonna be like, "Why are you bringing up
two
Bartlett
nerds
Irish
in the
Glory?
dugout?" Yeah,
but it's like
about it.
you had to be there. Like if you were, someone who
look, if you learned anything, or if you got any kind of positive or negative or anything that you saw that you thought was maybe cool or whatever, and that got you to this point where you're at now, that's a compliment. So seriously.
Yeah. No, I got you. Yeah, I will. I've never made a login though. I said I didn't want to be a comment.
Well, you're going to comment. You're going to get a special condensation. We're going to bestow one on you now. I'm going to create one for you when I get home.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever comment,
and I'll give it to someone, and they'll start posting under your name.
Yeah, no, I can't. Someone's going to make a fake one now, and people are going to think it's me.
The fake one will start bagging on the real one.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll have to pull it down. Ironically, I'll have to ban the same one I created. So.
All right. Well, if you think of the strangest situation in the football board by the end of this show, but let it out.
I definitely will come up. It's definitely come up with some for you off the air. No doubt about it.
All right.
No doubt about it.
Do you have a fan base that's maybe the,
good, bad, or indifferent?
I don't want to. Yeah, strange. Yeah.
Your fan base is pretty intense.
Yeah.
Niles Notre Dame is pretty intense.
Yeah.
Really, the Catholic League schools. It's again, you get a lot of passion, you get a lot of fan base, but you get a lot of pretty intense fan bases.
Yeah, you do.
And then there's some great ones. I mean, there are, and to me, the great ones seem to be kind of more suburban and in downstate where, I don't know, there's less to do. I don't know. I hate putting it so small, but and some of the suburban ones too. And I mean, obviously I'm thinking like Palatine out kind of the western suburbs. There's some great high schools that have amazing fan bases. Wheaton South has always had an amazing fan base. Batavia is like a little town out west that is just huge high school football, and they are packed every Friday night. So there's some great ones. There's some great ones for sure.
Any fan base that's kind of strange?
Strange.
Or like you can't pin down, you can't pinpoint. Like there's always like something with them, like
like a lot of like anger.
Yeah.
Below.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I'd have to think about that one a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. But they're all different. And again, I got to be fair. And I don't know if it's because I'm getting older and they're trying to be nice to the old guy. A lot of them have been really nice to me over the years. So it's not like I'm going to go around just to bag people.
Totally. I'm not
Generally,
asking to bag. I'm just.
I mean, I love when fan bases give me crap.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Like some fan base, overrated. I mean, I get that like every damn Friday where somewhere I go where, a team I ranked higher is down 14-0 and the overrated chant comes out in the first quarter. So
yeah.
And then they always point it towards me, which is even better. So,
yeah.
Which I don't care.
And I don't ask you that to bag on them. I think that's always
cool.
Most interesting parts. It's like Texas A&M. Rabid fan base.
Yeah.
That stadium's going nuts every Saturday.
Yep.
But everyone's like, all right, but it's kind of a strange ecosystem.
Yeah.
So that's
I get it.
That's what I kind of I'm wondering if you've seen that throughout the years.
Yeah.
I'll
put my head around it.
Is there if you had to give me 3 stadiums that are must see?
Yeah. For sure.
Illinois football, where would they be?
It's funny you mentioned Mount Carmel. Mount Carmel, Illinois is one of the most unique stadiums you're ever going to see.
Chicago.
No, Mount Carmel. Well, Mount Carmel, Chicago. We'll talk about that in a second. But Mount Carmel, Illinois, it's all built into a hill. So this field is at the very bottom of the hill. You can go on the Google, kids, and search Mount Carmel, Illinois. I bet your producer's doing it right now when we speak. Mount Carmel, Illinois football, and you see that stadium. So it's at the very bottom of the hill, and the stands are all on one side, built into the hill. So the visiting fans would be put on the bottom, and the home fans are on top, and the home fans are just wailing, throwing crap, and just loud and rowdy. But from a looks, it's one of the most unique places you'll ever see is Mount Carmel, Illinois. Rock Island, out in the Quad Cities, it's like 100-plus-year-old stadium, kind of like here in Chicago with. You and I talked a little bit about Hanson, Eckersall, Rock Island, again, is like over 100 years old, completely maintained, pristine. I mean, you could have walked in there 100 years ago to now, and it looks the same, but it's been kept up just beautifully. Seating all the way around like a true bowl stadium. Phenomenal.
Rock Island.
Great place. You mentioned Mount Carmel in Chicago. Built their own on-campus stadium. If you haven't been there, go check it out. It's literally, I'm a Sox fan, but I've been to Wrigley. It has that Wrigley Field vibe watching a high school football. You've got the Illinois Central tracks that would be the west end zone. You have one of the old buildings right across from you. You have stands all around. It sounds great. It looks great. It's one of the best things Mount Carmel has ever done was build that home stadium. So that's really, really unique too.
I got to get there this year.
Yeah, for sure. Go get a hold of Jordan Lynch, and he'll give you the VIP tour. And it is a great place to see a game.
Yeah, it looks so cool on TV and whatnot.
Yep.
So that would be in your top 3. Any other?
Yeah. There's others. As far as stadiums are concerned. Sterling, it's funny, all these places you're nowhere near. Sterling, way out west, again, 100-year-old plus school. They've got all kinds of money that they've put into their facilities. It's like being at a great Division II school. The facilities are that nice for high school. Closer in the city, I mentioned Eckersall, which is a city stadium, literally in the middle of a neighborhood. Complete throwback, 100-plus years old. They've done a lot of nice renovations to Gately. Gately's a heck of a lot better than it used to be. So I mean, even I'm trying to think. Even in the suburbs, there's some.
I noticed you haven't said Hanson.
Well, see, it's kind of not. I mean, they're doing some stuff there, but they're kind of still in the middle of a renovation, as we talked about. They've done some great work over there, but I think they're still kind of in the process of finishing up some of that renovation. But I think once it's done, I think you'll be really impressed at how nice it is. They've put a lot of money into it.
I mean, Hanson always had potential. It's just they never updated it for a second.
Never.
For years.
It was like green cement.
Yeah.
That turf. It was bad.
It was true green cement. Like that's,
There was nothing underneath.
No.
I swear if there was, it disintegrated years ago.
Yeah, that's where we played.
And there were seams, and guys would get their foot caught in the seam, and there were some bad injuries.
Oh, yeah. Horrible.
Coaches hated playing there.
Oh, that's like,
And then the hue, I call it the hue of the orange lights at Hanson. They literally were playing under an orange street light.
Yeah, and we loved it, though. Because
it was a home field advantage. No one wanted to play you guys.
No.
Ever.
No. And it was, you bring, I think we played New Trier there my junior year, and They were just shell shocked.
Yeah. No, it's unique. There's no doubt about it. But I'm interested to see when they open it because, like I said, brand new digital lighting system, brand new turf, completely renovating the stands area because those stands, like I said, are like 100. They got to be 100 years old.
Oh yeah.
So it'll be nice once they get it going.
It would backfire on you though. You try playing Joliet Catholic there with under those lights, trying to see the football and wing. It's impossible.
Yeah,
it was impossible.
Yeah, the only thing that would have been better if they could have wore like brown pants. They're running that option. You're never seeing the football.
You're not seeing
ever.
Shit. No. All right, nice. I like that. The stadium aspect is really cool.
Yeah. It's part of it.
Yeah. Give me three of the best teams ever.
Damn, I knew you were going here too.
You don't have to rank them. Just three teams that come to mind when it's like those were.
Best teams ever. Ever. See, I thought you were going to go more player on me. That one I'm pretty good with.
We'll get there.
I'm sure you're getting
We'll get there.
Best teams ever. Oh man, there's been so many. I mean, I'll go back to I'm just going to go schools because years, I mean, come on, I'm getting old. There have been Mount Carmel teams have been unbelievable.
Yeah.
Frank Lenti era was unbelievable. There were some great teams there. I'd have to say Joliet Catholic, the Gordy Gillespie again, late 70s, early 80s. There were some amazing teams there. Recently, I mean, Loyola. You look at what Loyola's done the last 3 or 4 years in particular, and it took them a while to get it going, but they definitely have it going. I mean, you're talking, you just watch them walk onto the field. I mean, there are over 100 kids on that roster, Eddie. I mean, they've got kids wearing double numbers. I mean, it's unbelievable, and they've backed it up, the last 3-4 years, and they're favored by everybody to win it again this year, which I totally agree with. There were some teams. I'm trying to think. Some of the suburban teams. Wheaton South has had some amazing teams going back in the late '90s, early 2000s. Wow, it's a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough
Maine
one.
South. Some really good.
Yeah. I mean, if you talk about most successful public league or public schools in the state, they're right there.
Yeah, look at
and Dave and Sarah's a legend.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt, and he's still going, and they're still running that high-flying offense and getting it done. They're fun to watch.
Yeah,
they're fun to watch. If you're a kid, and that's another one, and you talk about, well, how do they get all these players? Park Ridge is like every kid in Park Ridge plays youth football.
Mm-hmm.
It's nuts. They get huge numbers, and they've done it. You mentioned Lincoln Way East. I mean, Rob Zavona has never not been in the playoffs. The moment they played varsity football in that school, they've been in the playoffs. That's amazing.
That's very impressive.
Amazing. So that's over 20 years.
That's super impressive. Yeah. Lincoln Way East.
And they're another where their community is just amazing football-wise and generate tons of players, and they have numbers and support.
Such a powerhouse.
Yeah.
Such a powerhouse.
Yep.
But yeah, you're right. And that's where, not to wrap this back up into the Catholic versus public thing, but, those kids are playing football together for 8 years before they get to high school. And, Catholic schools, they got to cobble it all together in, 2 years to make sure you got a varsity team.
Do Catholic schools recruit? Yes. They have to recruit an entire student body. Otherwise, they're not open. These days, a lot of places are recruiting. Let's just leave it at that.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of movement. There's more transfers. We jokingly call it the transfer portal.
It's a thing.
There's a high school transfer portal, basically.
100%.
And my free board would be the first place we would list all of it if I didn't have some type of morals.
Yeah.
And I don't want to deal with parents and coaches about that either, because obviously they move for whatever reason. But there's been more movement now than ever with kids going from one school to the other.
Yeah.
So I mean, it does happen. It's going to continue to happen, unfortunately, and I don't see it slowing down. I really don't.
No.
Nope.
I mean, the college is, you kind of set the precedent here.
Yeah.
So it's like, why wouldn't this happen at a younger level? So
it's happening a lot.
All right, let's get into players on.
Yep. Best high school player I've seen and have covered, and there's obviously been a ton, Antoine Randall.
Wow, so you got a definitive number one.
Yep. To this day, combination of speed, kind of just a twitchy athlete. You could not bring him down. If you brought him down in the open field, you got lucky. He either ran into you or you literally just grasped at straws and were able to tackle him. Strong. I mean, he played quarterback at Thornton. He was an option quarterback. I mean, I saw it more than once. He'd run to one end of the field, turn around, reverse field, and go to the other and run another 70, 80 yards for a touchdown. He did that regularly. Just an unbelievable kid, an unbelievable athlete, and that big play and that twitchy kind of speed and breakaway and the combination of his strength, he was phenomenal. Phenomenal.
The real deal. The best
real
high school
deal.
football player you've ever seen.
Best athlete I ever saw. And again, it's not a state of Illinois kid because I've covered recruiting for years. So I've seen a lot of guys over the years at camps and national camps. Eddie George was the freakiest freak athlete I've ever seen. He was, back then, high school, he was, I don't know, 6'3", 6'4", probably 230, 240, and ran like he was 160 pounds.
Who else is on that podium after Randall L?
Wow. Yeah, it's how big is a podium?
As big as you want it to be.
Yeah.
Like if you call it Olympic style, who's the silver and the bronze?
Man, really, really good. I would have to go. I'm trying to think. I'll be honest, and it's a current one, and I'm kind of bailing on you a little bit, but it's really hard to know. J.J. McCarthy was unbelievable in NAS. And again, it was 3 years with the COVID closure. He decided to pick up and go to IMG for his last year, which I don't think anyone blamed him at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Special. Just a special kid to this day. Special athlete, great quarterback, just everything. The way he carried himself, personality-wise, everything. I mean, I'm thinking linemen. I'm thinking guys like Jeff Allen, who played at Illinois, went to Chicago King, played at Illinois, ended up playing for the Chiefs. Guys of that level. Yeah, there's been so many. Yeah, just it's through the years. So you know what? I got to write a book now. That's all there is.
You do.
I need to.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that alone I could do 3 or 4 chapters on.
100%.
And the cool part of it is and you know, first of all, I cover so many kids every year. But one of the best parts of my job is I actually kind of get to know who they are and get to see what type of people they are, and you definitely kind of root for them. You know, you see where some kids come. Jeff Allen was one of those kids that came from the city, played in a King program that really wasn't very good, but he just kind of found his way and took it as far as he possibly could. And it's those are the ones you remember for sure. You remember those kids.
One guy I want to ask you about, just because.
Yeah, please ask me about guys, because I'll tell you.
He's such a legend.
Yeah.
Is Allstott.
Oh, 100%. No doubt.
Was he just a bad dude?
Yeah, yeah, but a really good dude off the field too. But yeah, he just, no, that's a great one. He definitely is on the podium. There's no doubt about it. He's a legend. I mean, you look at what he did. I mean, he just took it to Purdue and did it there as well, and obviously in the Tampa Bay in the NFL.
Did you know at the time though Allstott would become that?
No, because was he a fullback? Was he you know, how well would that transition to the league? And even Randall L. was a quarterback coming out of high school, and how, you know, again, I give him all the credit in the world because he eventually made the transition to receiver and slot, and it worked out very well for him. And that's, again, the type of athlete he was. But, you know, you didn't know if schools were going to recruit him as a quarterback because he was too small and he didn't fit the prototype. And, you know, he was running option in high school, even though he got drafted by the Cubs and was a heck of a baseball player as well. Won a state title in basketball for Thornton too.
Yeah.
So, no, I mean, there's guys like that every year. I mean, there are guys, I'm trying to give you an example of someone that, you know, there's always the guys that, you know, I was a 2-star coming out of high school. Rivals rank me as a 2-star. That's another thing I catch grief for every day of my life almost. Some guy will be joking and say, hey, Rivals never ranked me. Or I was a 2-star, and the guy ends up going to the NFL. You know, but there are kids who are 6'2" and 160, in high school when you see them. And then you see them 3 years later and they're 6'4" and 240. And it's like, wow. I mean, I'm good. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't predict you grow 3 inches and put on 50 pounds in 2 years, but it happens. It's okay.
Yeah.
I sleep okay at night. It's fine. I do my best. That's all.
Is there a player in your head that like shocked you the most that they went on to have like a good college or pro career that you just didn't see coming?
Shocked me the most. I'm trying to think of one in particular that just kind of
blew the roof off of expectations.
Blew the roof off. I don't know why Max Crosby's still in my head. I don't know why. No. Again, that's lost in the void in my head. I'll come up with that.
And then, is there like an opposite, and for whatever reason, that a guy that?
Oh yeah. There's always the 5 stars that don't work out.
Yeah.
There's I mean, it's not an exact science. It's and again, I think the thing that a lot of people don't take into account sometimes, and I get this from dealing with kids for years and years and years. Do they love football? Do they love playing it? Is it something they really want to do? And Eddie, I talk to kids every year that they have the physical tools, they have everything, but I don't know if they love playing football. And those are kind of the ones that they have the 5-star profile, but they end up either not playing or it just doesn't work out. Mm-hmm. So there's a long line of those. And no, I'm not giving you any names, but there's a long line of them. There's kids in this recruiting class that have a lot going on, and I hope things come around, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been pretty good with that side of it, getting a pretty good read on people sometimes.
Yeah.
So, but when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. No problem to admit it.
Well, I could probably go on for more hours.
Obviously, same here.
Let's get into this season. Okay.
Usual suspects.
Okay.
Loyola.
Mount
Carmel. Loyola 1. Lincoln Way East 2. Mount Carmel 3. Maine South 4. And now I got to look at my phone. Like Cary Grove has been unbelievable. Winning state titles in 6A. All they do is beat East St. Louis, so you got to give them credit for that, making that move.
And they've been so good for so long, too.
Yeah. Warren, up in Gurnee. Mm-hmm. Brian McNulty's built a really good program there. They're going to be very good again this year. They play great defense. Batavia, Downers North, and you get into the suburban schools. Nazareth and Wheaton St. Francis, both kind of, we talked about those smaller enrollment Catholic League programs, but they're two that could very well go 5-4 in the regular season and win a state title because they're so tested. Their crossovers are Mount Carmel and Loyola. So, there's others. Glenbard West is another program that out in Glen Ellen every year. Chad Hetlett does an amazing job with that group, and they'll be state title contending. They usually are very, very strong every year. And, again, a lot of usual suspects. Joliet Catholic in that mix as well. Providence is going to have a big year. And then, again, it sounds like the Catholic League report, but that's kind of rankings these days. It's a lot of the usual suspects for reasons that we talked about earlier that continue to stay at that high level.
Is there kind of a newcomer that is poised to break into that, though? Who do you like there to have a big year that hasn't been maybe down the last couple of years?
Yeah, there's who was the school? I was just talking to someone about it, trying to remember. I know that Wheaton South has kind of been just okay. They haven't been great. I think they have a chance to be pretty solid this year. I love saying this, and then if they lose Friday, I'll never hear the end of it. Palatine's another program that has kind of come on. They've been very good. Marist, not a good year last year. I think it was a one-year blip. Mike Fitzgerald's back coaching them. I think Marist is going to be strong as ever. The Kankakees and the Crete Moniz are traditionally very good programs. Outside of that, there's a couple, like a Hinsdale South is a program that maybe the last few years hasn't been good. They could have a decent year this year. So, there's always a handful that pop up and surprise you, but I don't know if and again, and I think it attributes to how strong some of the usual suspects are. You might not see as much of that this year. We'll see.
Yeah, you think it's going to be pretty chalk all the way through?
Yeah, it has been. You look at the numbers and you look at the results over the last 5-10 years. It's been very, very chalky.
Mm-hmm. Now, is there a program that is historically in that mix that might be a little down this year?
Yeah, who would be down this year? Yeah, I would say down. I hate this too, because then I'm going to catch creep for this one too.
But here's the thing, though. It's not.
You're
not rooting against them,
right? So here's something, and this is. I'm glad you kind of led me down this road, leading the blind down this road.
Yeah.
A lot of these conferences, and again, this has happened. There's been a conference merge this year between the DuPage Valley, which is the Naperville schools, Naperville North, Naperville Central, Neuqua, Waubonsie. They merged in with the Southwest Suburban, which is Lincoln Way East, Homewood, Lockport. So a lot of these are 4 and 5 team conferences. So I have to pick a first place and a last place team in all these. It's like impossible.
Yeah.
Like the Southwest Valley Blue, which is a combination of those two conferences, is Lincoln Way East, Homewood, Neuqua Valley, Naperville North. It's like, come on, really? They're all, you get them out of that conference, they could all end up being a 7-8 win team. That's kind of the problem, and especially in the Catholic League. Again, here we go, the Catholic League. You mentioned DePaul Prep, and we mentioned St. Pat's and Notre Dame, and then you mentioned Wheaton St. Francis and Naz. And again, Naz last year was 4 and 5 and got into the playoffs and won 5 straight games and won a state title.
Crazy.
But you're asking me to pick the down team. Yeah. Well, okay, record-wise, they might be down. Okay, one of those two could wind up being 5 and 4. But are you asking me, can they not win a state title? I'm going to tell you, no. I think they get out of that. You have a shot.
Yeah.
Because the competition level is so much different. You got to understand. You go from a conference to a kind of a more wide pool to choose from. You're playing schools that haven't seen anything close to what they've faced for 9 weeks. So it makes it interesting.
Yeah, the last place team could be still a top 25
it does happen.
Team in the state.
The Catholic League Blue, okay? Marist, Rice, Mount Carmel, Loyola. Go ahead, Eddie. Pick a last place team.
Well, that's what I just said. The last place team could still be a top 25 team 100%.
In the state. But you got to tell the Brother Rice fan base that you picked them last place in the Catholic League. You'll never hear the end of it.
I think they like that, though. They got bulletin board material. They got the nobody believes in us.
Oh, I used to joke that I was going to offer a service where we could print up message board posts and they can hang them in their locker room. We'll laminate them and they can just kind of put them up really nice on the wall.
That's great for a coach. Yeah. You rally around that message. Nobody.
Believe me, there have been many an instance where coaches have created user names and have put some interesting things on message boards. We'll leave it at that. It'll be in the book, Eddie.
Yeah,
it'll be in the book.
I'm interested to hear it. What are like the top 3 conferences at this point?
Catholic League Blue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would go.
Is the DVC still super strong?
Well, see, they're merged in now with another conference, and that's a pretty good conference. But they haven't. This is the first year they're playing as a combined.
Mm-hmm.
But they're going to be one of the ones that are up there as well. I would say that the West Suburban Silver with Glenbard West and York and Oak Park River Forest and Hinsdale Central, that is a very good conference as well. So kind of those 3. The one with the Fox Valley with Cary Grove and Prairie Ridge, it's a little bit smaller and it's obviously out in McHenry County, but they're very good. You look at the success that they've had, and I guess that's the way you measure, right? Who winds up getting the state titles, and they've been there pretty consistently.
Who's some CPS teams to look out for?
Morgan Park. Chris James done an amazing job with Morgan Park. Literally, physically has built that program up. They've built locker rooms. They've built. It's a great story. Chris, former alum, played at Illinois. Very good player. They're going to be very good. Sinkyu Turner, who was at Kenwood, is now at Simeon. Dante Colbreth retired after years and years of success there. He takes that program over. They are going to continue to win, so they're going to be a really good team. I think Kenwood's still going to be okay in the public league. Again, coaching wise, Coach Gofford takes over. I think they're going to be just fine. School like Taft is decent. They'll end up in the playoffs and maybe go a round or two in the playoffs. There's a handful of CPL teams that are going to be okay. They'll do okay, but in general, I think Morgan Park's got the best chance. I think Morgan Park can get pretty deep in 6A. I really do.
Okay.
And they've been good. They've been good the last 2 or 3 years.
Okay. Morgan Park.
Simeon.
A lot of the usual suspects still.
I know.
It's
like a cop-out, but it's the reality.
I get it, yeah. But Taft is new. Like, that's kind of a new team to...
Yep. There's a few.
Yeah.
Yep.
What rivalries? What's your best rivalries in this?
Well, you and I already talked about the big one with you is St. Pat's and Notre Dame. Really underrated rivalry, in my opinion, that people have no idea what goes on. I mentioned this earlier today too. Out towards NIU, Sycamore and DeKalb, they play that game at NIU at Husky Stadium because of the crowds. So they will have probably 7,000-8,000 fans for a high school game on a Friday night. Some years, that game has outdrawn NIU crowds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's a big deal. Joliet Catholic Providence, I don't care what the sport is. They hate each other. They get after it. It draws. It's a huge draw. The Catholic League ones, Mount Carmel, St. Rita, that's been the appeal of the Catholic League for years, that the rivalry games really do mean something. Marist, Brother Rice, packed, absolutely packed. Southside Super Bowl, no doubt.
Yep.
Suburban, you have Naperville North, Naperville Central. They play that game at North Central College, and they'll draw 8,000-10,000 fans. So there's always good, healthy rivalries, really pretty much everywhere. You can generally find a pretty good rivalry, and that's a big fun part of this as well too.
Where will you be week 1?
Friday, Maine South at Lincoln Way East. Huge game, huge week 1 game. I think one of the best games in the state. So that's Friday night. Saturday, I'm either going to check out Morgan Park at Marist or Glenbard West at Batavia during the day, and then I'm heading down to Illinois State at night for Loyola against East St. Louis, which is a huge game.
Who do you like in that one?
I'll go with Loyola. Ramblers bring back a lot of key players from a year ago. Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's Pat Fitzgerald's son. I said Fitzpatrick. Fitzgerald. Ryan Fitzgerald. Pat Fitzpatrick's son is the starting quarterback for Loyola. Had a player of the year last year. Drew McPherson's a talented athlete. They're both committed to Iowa. East St. Louis, a lot of talent. They're a bit younger though, so this is going to be a team that I think is going to have to find themselves a little bit, but it should be entertaining. Just like last year, Mount Carmel and East St. Louis down there, great crowd, really tight games. So we could see something like that. But Loyola's so good. They just, like I said, they come at you in waves. They're huge. They're talented. They're athletic. They're really, really tough.
You got a pick for Maine South?
I'll go Lincoln Way East. They're very, very good at home for whatever reason. They seem to be able to find a way, but that one could be pretty high scoring.
Yeah.
Lincoln Way East got a transfer in quarterback, Jonas Williams, who was at Bolingbrook. He's a 4-star kid. He just committed to Oregon about a month ago. He's a real deal. And Maine South, again, really has 2 quarterbacks that are outstanding. Constantine Coins is a senior, kind of a smaller kid physically. The sophomore is Jamison Purcell, who's already got Power 4 offers. So the senior beats out the sophomore with the Power 4 offers. So that'll tell you how good the quarterback situation is at Maine South. And they're going to score a lot of points.
Yeah. Sounds like Maine South.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
Pretty standard. Pat's Notre Dame, who are we going with tonight?
I'll go Notre Dame. Close.
You could cut that, Lance.
Physical. I'm surprised I'm still here. I thought he'd be showing the door by now. But Luke Mertens is going to do a good job for Pats.
Yeah, he's going to turn it around.
Very much so.
We need it.
Great guy, really good, energetic coach. They're heading in the right direction.
Okay, I'm happy to hear that.
Yep.
It's time.
Yep.
It's been a long time. So
yeah.
People are ready, and it's got to happen.
Pats had a good year about a year or two ago. They got in the playoffs.
Yeah.
It was a nice.
Yeah, it was solid.
It was a nice change, and I think they're kind of building off that now. So they're going to be okay.
Good to hear. Edgy Tim, you're the best.
Oh,
thank you,
man. I feel like I was on the Budweiser hot seat. But we're all good.
Yeah, I like to ask the questions that a lot of people.
No, that's totally great. I love it. It shows me that early onset Alzheimer's might be slipping in a little bit, but it's okay. I'll go back and do my homework, and hopefully the next time you drag me in here, I'll be a little bit.
All right, cool. No, we'll do it again for sure.
Yep.
EdgyTim.com. Anything else you want to tell people about here?
No, just EdgyTim.com, at EdgyTim on X, and just Eddie, thank you, man. This is awesome. It means a lot, and you guys just keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. You as well, sir.
You got it.
All right, that's it, everybody. All the high schools playing this weekend. Good luck.
See you out there.
Best time. So we'll see you out there for sure.
Yep.
All right, that's it, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.